Welcome again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. This is episode number 23 of School of Hard Thoughts.
23?
Jordan! He was 23, right? The number.
Yeah, but then there's Jordan sitting right there.
Oh, yeah! Wait, no, you're giving it away.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Karen, can we start over? Our producer?
Why does our producer's name change every
Because
episode?
they're not real. It's a figment of my imagination, man.
Okay.
So who are you?
Welcome to the School of Hard Thoughts. I'm Adrian Davis.
I'm Green Kaywood.
And as usual, we just want to thank everyone here at Famous Sam's Golf Links in Kolb in Tucson, Arizona, 7129 East Golf Links Road. The best place to watch sports. They have the baseball package. They have U of A. They've got it set up so that they can have anything you want, along with great food, good beer, and all kinds of other stuff.
And surly staff members that just
surly wenches
throw knives at each other. And at this bar, Duke and North Carolina are still in a tournament, but only at this bar.
Yeah.
Everywhere else.
That would be that bar would be called the Broken Bracket.
Ooh, that's a good one. We got business to get down to here today. This is exciting. I think this is our first musical guest.
Yes, and we're gonna get in trouble from all our friends who are musicians.
I know. Well, fucking call us then.
All right, but anyway, we have Tony and Jordan from Judicator.
Hi guys. Hey there.
So,
all right, great interview.
Yeah, okay.
See you guys later. Thank you for having us. Really appreciate it.
We really have had, just once we had a problem. We're not going to name the guests because we love all of our guests. But I guess they had never listened to a podcast before. So it was just like, so tell me about X, Y, and Z. And they were like, X, Y, Z. Pretty much.
Yeah.
It was like no conversation whatsoever. So we're like signing off in like 3 minutes.
Thanks for saying it right into the mic. Jordan and Tony, thanks for getting up early on a weekend. I know you guys probably work for a living.
Sometimes.
For now.
But maybe not for long, right?
Right. So, what's the name of the band?
The band's name is Judicator.
Judicator.
Which, if you're a Star Wars fan, is actually from the expanded universe of Star Wars. If you read the Grand Admiral Thrawn books, it's named after one of his ships.
I was about to say that is one of the ships, yeah.
See, I was thinking either a Marvel or StarCraft, but still in the geist of nerddom.
Oh yeah.
Definitely in the geist of nerdom.
So, go ahead.
Sorry, we always start this off with who is, but since you kind of are a collective thing, I think let's do it individually and then let's talk about the band. So, who's Tony?
So my name's Tony Cordisco. I'm the guitarist / band manager / I guess you could say band tyrant. Every band's got their tyrant. And
so my job in this show.
Yes, exactly. So you know exactly how it goes.
God, I am always the rhythm guitarist in every fucking outfit.
So in my case, I put the band together. I've been playing with Jordan for 15 years.
Holy moly!
Yeah, since we were kids, basically. And I've been playing guitar since I was 12 years old. Got into music because my uncle, rest his soul, was the lap steel guitar player for Charlie Pride. So
wow!
Grew up with music in my family.
Way to name drop!
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah!
Right away.
Name drop. That's what I do.
That's right.
But yeah, I grew up with music in my family, got into heavy metal when I was in about 7th, 8th grade, and started playing that on guitar.
That's pretty standard.
Yeah,
So
right around puberty, you know.
Yeah.
You're nerdy, and you're intelligent, and you're on my show, and you play metal? How's that going to happen?
I don't know, but we'll figure it out.
I'm starting to think you know each other past this podcast.
I have no idea what you're talking about. And so let's go back to our normal disclaimer because it's very important in this situation. I don't always do it because sometimes I just forget.
No.
But if you are my employer or somehow related to my employer, stop listening now. Because we may offend you, we may drop a few F-bombs.
I already did.
Their episode, I think it was episode 19 or 20, I dropped the N-bomb, and both my Caucasian hosts went, "What?" I'm like, "Whoa, dude."
Shit.
Like, it's okay, I can say it.
All of a sudden, it's a Jordan Peele movie.
No, really, seriously. Just, I love you, and I'm glad that you give me money every 2 weeks, but stop listening. So who's Jordan?
Well, I'm Jordan Elcess. I play the drums in Judicator, and just like Tony said, we've been playing for 15 years. I was introduced to music by my father. He always listened to bands like Typo Negative and Pearl Jam.
Nice.
Alice in Chains. So I literally would wake up on a weekend to the stereo blasting while he was cleaning, and that's just how I was introduced.
Not a bad way.
So I have to ask, because if your dad was listening to those bands that I was listening to, how old are you?
I'm 29.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ditto.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So I could be your dad.
Oh.
I'm not your dad.
I mean, you could be.
All right, we're going to do an Ancestry. Ancestry.com is bringing
Your
us this
history is just
segment.
messed up like mine, where maybe, I don't know.
Again, everybody at work, just stop watching now.
Jury's still out.
But yeah, so my job in the band is to keep everybody humble. I think
That is a classic drummer trope right there.
everybody comes up with, I tell them it sucks and it could be better. Even though I think it's great, it's just my ability of drumming isn't up to the speed.
It's like, look, listen, you guys got to be really extra good, because I'm like, boom, tap, boom, tap, boom. That's it. That's all you're getting at.
Yep, pretty much, man.
Well, and drummers, those guys are the scaffolding, the skeletal system of a band, if you will. And everybody really has to listen to what the hell you're doing. So, yeah, right, from Hanson.
From Hanson.
Yeah.
Eric from Hanson.
Yeah.
They're Canadian.
So how long has Judicator? I distinctly heard him say Judicator. How long has this band been going on in its current iteration?
So with our current lineup, just about 2.5 years since the last time we made a lineup change. That was when we brought on our current bass player, Michael Sanchez, who is sleeping right now because he works the night shift. Yeah. And he was originally our live bass player, and then we had some lineup changes and decided to reform to a 4-piece. And Jordan's been in the band since 2014, and then the band itself has existed since 2012.
That's awesome. So I actually went on to iTunes and downloaded 2 of your albums and spent some time doing research.
I work 2 jobs.
Anyway,
I'm the personality of the place. I'm the one with the radio voice.
Yeah, because if you listen to my voice, definitely not a radio voice. I've got radio face, but not radio voice. But did a great deal of listening. Actually, fell asleep to it one night. And first of all, it's definitely up my alley. But I don't want to put any words in your mouth, and we'll talk about it after you answer. But what are your influences?
So our primary genre is what's called power metal. Predominantly, we play a mix of the U.S. and German styles, which are pretty similar to begin with. They're both very fast-paced, very guitar riff-oriented, whereas some power metal is lots of keyboards and not a lot going on the guitar, or slower. Where our stuff is it's got a lot of that old school thrash influence, old school speed metal influence.
Blisteringly hot guitar licks.
Yeah, so what I wanted to get at was, I hear a lot of Megadeth. I hear a lot of Megadeth in what you're doing.
I could say that San Francisco thrash scene definitely. Are they from San Francisco? I don't know. It's for the California.
Yeah, I mean, there was the whole problem with the fact that he was in Metallica, and then they were like, "Hey, you're drinking 100% of the time,
Yeah, it's bad
and
when
playing maybe 0% of the time." So
Right.
Full house, boys.
Hey,
Of course,
we got John Z.
We love him, John Z.
That's our gimmick, is the bar convo.
Yeah, 'cause we don't got much else.
The influences from Germany. That's interesting. So what German metal bands?
So our primary influence is a band from Germany called Blind Guardian. They're a speed metal band from the 80s who basically pioneered the power metal genre along with bands like Halloween, Running Wild.
Okay.
And have changed tremendously throughout the years. They played speed metal, then power metal. Nowadays they play this like symphonic, orchestral, progressive stuff. We take
Mastodon or something.
We take influence from like their early days, like up to '95, because my singer and I, we actually met at a Blind Guardian concert. Blind Guardian is our favorite band together, and then through that we actually ended up making friends with them, and their singer Hansi guested on our last album and collaborated with us.
Man, that must have been a bit. Were you starstruck at all?
Yeah, my head was spinning. Like, you can ask my wife when we were playing the tracks. When I got it back, I was like, "This isn't real. 13-year-old me is gonna step out of a time machine and punch me in the face right now."
That's awesome.
So you guys have been working hard at this. It sounds like. About how much per week would you guys say that you meet up and fine tune and tighten up everything?
I'd say for when we're not preparing for a show or not preparing for an album, because right now we're doing both of those things. So we're playing twice a week, and then Jordan and I talk every day. John and I talk every day. Michael and I talk probably once a week. Outside of that, me and John, our singer, we're always going back and forth every day. We talk to each other about, our 5-year plan. What's in the 5-year plan? What's going on creatively on the next album? What do we want to shoot for? And then Jordan and I, a couple times a week, assuming we're not practicing, are usually spitballing the business side of things, like what merchandise do we want to work on? What's our social media strategy?
Right, the admin side of.
Yeah, we expect shirts, by the way.
Right. Yes. We have some good ones.
Working on the design right now.
Well, and that's a good segue. Great. See, you are a radio guy. That's a great segue into what I was really impressed with when I was looking at some of your album covers. Is the imagery has this kind of Gothic Renaissance kind of edge to it. Do you guys design all that yourself, or is this like a public domain clip art? I didn't see any Imager like watermarks on any of the shit. I mean, and this stuff is like so go to I saw you guys on the Bandcamp website. Do you guys have your own website?
No, we had a website for a little bit that Jordan made, and we ended up taking it down because it just didn't have any.
It was just all drums.
Yeah, no. you can tell them a little bit about it.
So I taught myself coding.
Holy shit!
And I
Learn to code, bro.
Yeah, and then
Hashtag learn to code.
Do you even code?
Now, this is going to get us taken off of Twitter.
Oh, damn it! I'm fine with that.
And I just saw a project to literally just take my learnings to the next level, and I was like, hey, I'll just make a band one, and all the analytics in the back end of it, we weren't seeing the traffic translate into either views or merchandise, so it wasn't cost effective.
Yeah, absolutely. We found that too as a show. We have a pretty decent following. Nobody ever goes to our website.
No, it's
and if we didn't need our website to create an RSS feed, we wouldn't have a website.
Social media is just so strong.
Right, social media is taking over.
The platforms are so dedicated, and it already has billions of people already using it. Why not uphold from that stream,
Yeah, our main source is our Bandcamp. Bandcamp has been incredibly generous to us, incredibly supportive of us. We've been in contact with some of the people that run it. They've reached out to us, featured us a few times, and they've just been incredibly supportive. Like, I honestly, if I was going to contribute any success we've had to one thing, I would say it's to Bandcamp.
All right, about Bandcamp. What's Bandcamp?
So Bandcamp is relatively new in the underground scene. It's a service that you can upload your music to, and you can distribute physical merch. The great thing is they only take cuts out of your digital sales. They don't cut out of your physical sales, so you have a shipping manifest system to manage your business without any cost to you when you have physical merch.
So they actually provide infrastructure, and you provide the art.
What a great business model.
And they provide, the more you sell, the more you unlock. So like we've gotten to a point where they've reduced the amount of money they take from us because we've done well.
Well, and you're advocating traffic on on the parent side, if you will. That's really cool. What a cool idea.
Yeah, and then their way that they connect music together, like recommending you stuff, it's really smart about how it does. It's funny because we know a lot of bands that are similar to us around the world, and we've just organically been connected to them on Bandcamp. So our listeners start getting in with them, or their listeners start getting in with us, and it's like we didn't even try to orchestrate that, but cool that our fans are collaborating.
And now our listeners are gonna go to Bandcamp. Get on your interwebs, go to Bandcamp, look up Judicator, and a bunch of their friends, it sounds like, that you guys are kind of using each other's centrifugal force to promote each other. That's really awesome.
What's the structure of your band? So is it a 5-piece, a 4-piece? Do you have a front man, or do you got a guy that plays guitar, a lead guitar, backup? How's it go?
Keyboardist, tambourine player.
So our band is a 4-piece, and in the studio we all take on multiple roles, depending. So whatever's going on with the album, like sometimes I'll program keyboards, but you will never see me play a keyboard live. Or our bass player might play some guitar solos, or our singer might throw in some keyboards.
So you can get that layered sound.
And we have a huge amount of layering to our music, and then live we play as a 4-piece, sometimes a 5-piece if we can find an additional guitar player, but we rearrange everything to make sense for that lineup. So if you see us live versus the album,
So it's kind of like a 4-piece, three musicians and a front man.
Yep. And live, our songs come across very differently because we restructure them to make sense for the lineup versus what happens.
So that's
on the
really
album.
interesting, and I'm always going to bring things back to my favorite band. One of my favorite bands does that, and they started doing that. They're actually a 3-piece, and they have layering and backup vocals and a lot of keyboards, and yet when you see them live, they still have that stuff because they've learned, and of course they have the money to do it, they've learned how to trigger with pedals. Do you ever see yourself getting to the point where you would do that, or do you like sounding different studio versus live?
Yeah, we grew up, like me and Jordan, we played in thrash bands all throughout high school. I mean, and when I say thrash, I mean it was like hardcore punk mixed with Metallica kind of stuff, just yelling about how much we don't like the government or whatever was on our mind at the time. And so we kind of like to keep that aesthetic with our newer stuff, because like power metal is not so much an angry genre. It's more melodic. It's
very melodic.
Yeah, it's got a lot of like this grandiose feeling to it. So we like to put the balls back in it.
There you go.
And keep it that way. So we kind of choose songs. Like me and Jordan will usually talk about the songs we choose, and basically it's whatever ones we feel are the most fun for that environment. Like I know there's certain songs you like to play.
Yeah, usually the thrashy or faster ones that I can get into, like, a lot.
Start jamming
So
out.
let's talk about the writing process, because I've always been fascinated by this, because I am tone deaf. I don't have a musical bone in my body, but I love music. I have heard interviews where, like for example, the band Tool, what they do is they send the musicians away, and they might go away for 3 years and say, we're working on the music. Lay down the music, and then Maynard, who's the vocalist, will get it back and go, change this, change that. They'll make the changes, send it to him, and then he'll come up with lyrics. And then I've also heard of bands like, no, we're bringing the lyrics in in first, or we're bringing the lyrics together with the music, because the arrangement of the song won't make sense if you just play some music and then you yell over it. So how do you guys work?
So it kind of is similar to that. It's a very multi-step process. So how it starts is with me. We write concept albums. So like your old progressive rock bands, the whole album is supposed to be listened to as one piece of music, and the vocals tell a story.
2112.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
And props to you guys for doing that, because I do think that music nowadays has become so compartmentalized, and back to single sales like they were doing in the 40s and 50s. And I've noticed that metal bands, and you guys in and of yourselves, do seem to have like it's one movement, and that in and of itself is a form of art. So sorry I derailed you there.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, in our type of music, like it's really important for the album to be presented as a whole, listened to as a whole, but the individual songs still have to stick out, right?
Sure.
Of course.
But we write everything as a concept album. So what I usually do is I write the music first, the first draft of the music, and that's just guitars, right? So this is what the music is going to look like. guitar-wise, we're going to have these 8 songs, whatever it is, these interludes, and then I send that music to our singer, John, and he lives in Salt Lake City, so we're actually a split-region band. This is the least split region we've ever been. At one point, we had members in 4 states, so that was not fun.
So when you say you write the music, do you write and read sheet music, or do you just play?
I use a program called Guitar Pro, and I can read sheet music. It's just not practical for what we do.
Just smeared across the stage.
Yeah, I have all this training from high school that's just useless nowadays. But so I write that music, I send it to him, and he'll usually talk to me about what he's going to do lyrically. But our agreement has always been, I will write the music and he will write the lyrics. He's in a couple other bands and he doesn't always get that creative freedom. So I just give him you do whatever you want, dude. It's up to you. I don't tell him where to put vocals. I don't tell him like this needs to be a chorus. I don't advise on what the lyrical subject should be. He'll tell me all of that, but it's not like asking permission. It's just like, hey, cool, I'm working on this. What do you think? And so what he generally does is concept albums about different topics in history, though he did do our 3rd album, At the Expense of Humanity, was a personal story about his brother passing away from cancer.
God damn.
Yeah, very, very heavy stuff, which I think was personally important to him, but generally speaking, we focus on historical topics. And then he does these like cool character studies on these figures from history and kind of tries to get inside their minds and motivations and pull out themes and things like that. So it's pretty cool from a storytelling perspective. And then once he's done with that, he'll go ahead and record the vocals to my guitar tracks. But then there's the rhythm section, which I also don't advise Jordan or Michael what to play. I just send them my guitars. And they write to it. So how it works for Michael is he'll write out the bass parts on Guitar Pro and send them back to me, and just to make sure that we're aligned and that it makes sense for what's going on in the song. And then he'll record that. And then for Jordan, I learn the songs with him, and sometimes I'll have an idea for a beat in mind, and I think I'll let you take this one and explain our writing process since we've been honing it for a decade and a half.
Yeah, it's still in the. We're still trying to get a hold of it, but just like he said, he plays the guitars so I can actually learn the structure of the song, and then he'll tell me like what beats he wants, and then I usually learn the basic beats of it, but then I start expanding on my ideas and the influences that I have, because everybody in the band has extremely different music influences.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's what makes us so special.
So tell me about your evolution as a drummer. Did you start it early in band, or did you say, "Mom, I want a drum kit now," or how did it work?
Tony and I were a guitar duo when we were 15, and that lasted until
Probably a couple of years.
Yeah, it lasted quite a while, and then we had a drummer that didn't want to show up anymore. And sorry if you're listening to this, whoever you are, but his kit was at my house, and I said, I can play a thrash beat. It's just that, you know what I mean? So that's what I did.
Said, boom, tap, boom, tap, boom.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so I just literally started doing that, picked up the YouTube videos and learned different variety of stuff, got into Gavin Harrison from Porcupine Tree heavily. He's my main influence, and a lot of the drummers from Death, like Sean Reinhardt, and it's just that it's molded me into what I am today and what I like to bring to the album, because straight up power metal, I don't have the stamina to do so. But I don't want to be like every other power metal band either, so I try to bring a different creativity to it. And so once I learn the basic beats of it, I try to bring in, like some weird stuff or weird timing or polyrhythmic stuff. And
and drummers have a lot of responsibility for that, because, a timing change can really change the mood of not only the song, but everybody listening to it as well. It'll take your brain, which responds to these sequential beats and stuff.
Yeah.
You can really change it up. That's really cool. You were talking about the historical aspect of some of your albums, and we were talking about that before. We were thinking you guys were like Catholic or or starting a revolution or something like that. But because Adrian was reading some of your lyrics, and I was looking at the imagery of the albums and just kind of trying to, between my jobs and stuff, kind of get a feel for what you.
Right,
what
I mean,
it
we
is
were
you guys
talking
are
about
trying
time
to
travel earlier. I'm like, were these
accomplish.
fucking crusades?
Exactly. But you guys do have that kind of. I would call it an Easter egg, like where if you really pay attention to the song, you can get a lot more out of it other than just really good power metal. So what made you guys want to, or is that, what made you guys want to pursue that as a concept album, or is that a common theme among you and your brethren?
So on that subject, I'll be speaking a little bit for John, but
Okay.
with the historical aspects, it's funny that you mentioned the religious aspect, because when he first sent me the lyrics, he wanted to absolutely make sure that I understood that he was not writing a religious concept album.
You're like, but half of it's in Latin.
John's interesting because he's actually an Eastern Orthodox Christian, but
Okay.
that's a recent thing, like post writing that album.
Sure, right.
And actually, if you go back to our second and third albums, they're very atheistic, philosophical, nihilistic in nature. And that's credit to John because he writes to the character that he is examining. So he never puts himself into somebody else's shoes when he's writing for them.
John, because I would have asked him if he has an acting background.
Well, it's funny. He has a film background. He studied film in college.
There it is.
And he's done quite a few independent films himself, like small, short things. And he does screenwriting, and he tries to approach the lyrics from that aspect. So he does tons and tons of research when it comes to the albums, and it blows my mind because he'll be like, "Yeah, I read these 7 books," and I look at the books online, and they're like 1,000 pages a piece, and because you can't find a lot
And
of
he
the
probably
good.
works for a living. Right?
Absolutely, yeah. He's a vocal instructor right now, I believe. And it's funny because with something like the Crusades, we talked a lot about doing it because that is a very, very controversial topic, especially if you connect it to modern day politics.
Oh, definitely.
Oh yeah.
Now, to put it in context, like there's no commentary on our album about modern day politics. We wanted to do the Crusades because it is a very interesting time period.
It's pretty damn metal.
Oh yeah, and it is covered in it is covered in metal a lot. We are far from the first band to ever do a concept album about the Crusades. One of my favorite albums ever is actually on my vest here. It's Heresy by Paradox, which is a German thrash band from the 80s, and that was all about the massacres of the Cathars. But lots of interesting angles to discover in the Crusades about, the development of the Middle East, some things that were going on politically back then.
Right.
And then he also chooses them because of the themes that can be pulled out of it. So our second album is actually my favorite. It's called Sleepy Plessau, and it's about the development of the Prussian Empire, and specifically Frederick the Great, who was a staunch atheist, very much so. And even though John is not that, he wrote those lyrics like from an absolutely just bleak place of nihilism, which a lot of our fans appreciate because you don't hear that in power metal very much.
Right.
But like he didn't insert himself. He tries to be as objective as possible and be true to the character, and then it's up to the listener to decide what they get out of that.
That's a very difficult task, and it's kind of good that we've kind of come full circle to that, because actually when we were discussing pre-show, I was like, I know Tony, but I don't really know him. So, like, I'm hoping that they show up, because if we were a little, it doesn't matter what you believe in, but people are often put off by us because I say we're like an atheist and a half. So, and we talk about that kind of stuff on the podcast a lot, and just because he won't commit.
I'm not sure. I'm waiting to see the Event Horizon of a Black Hole in a couple days.
We're talking, yeah, that's going to be
Its own show. That'll be its own show.
We got to talk about that.
So it's like the Stanislavski acting method of writing a damn power metal album. That's pretty cool. I don't know that I've heard in this specific genre of somebody going to such lengths to pour himself into another character and then writing from that perspective. That's pretty fun. It sounds like it's intimidating to kind of match up to that, though. If I were a band member, I'd be like,
Thanks.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, that's always been kind of the fun thing about the band creatively is like I just let John make it whatever he wanted to, and the cool thing is like our fans are really invested in that aspect because it can be a thing in power metal where lyrics don't matter. Because it's like, oh, generic swords and sorcery, like the magic wizard went to the hill and defeated a dragon. Like, that's literally...
Dragon Force.
Yeah, exactly, like Dragon Force lyrics. Like, we're going far away to quest for the noble king. And this has no depth whatsoever.
Well, that's how you get your Guitar Hero deal.
There you go. And I like that kind of stuff too, but there's a time and a place for it.
Sure.
And it's cool that he's crafted that around our music, and that's something I personally like as a listener, so I kind of get to be a fan of what he's doing, of what Jordan and Michael are doing, while just completely ignoring everything I'm doing.
And I
true artist.
think from being a big music fan and the type of music fan that, again, because I don't have any musical talent, I kind of do the deep dive. So I read all the interviews and I listen to, go onto YouTube and find out about these bands. And it seems that one of the overarching things of successful musicians, no matter what the genre, is that they take that approach of being original, being true to yourself, and not giving a fuck what anybody else thinks.
Yeah, I think for me and Jordan especially, we've kind of decided over the years that like our genre doesn't matter. It is what it is. It's just a style. As long as we're playing music we enjoy and we're being true to like our own quirks, it's always just kind of worked out because we played lots of different kinds of metal.
Yep.
I'm not sure if you have anything to say on that particular point.
I mean, thrash, death metal, progressive death metal. We've done it all. We've tried an acoustic band. It's just been...
Wait, an acoustic band? Did you guys stay...
Tried.
Yeah, it didn't go anywhere.
No, but what was that like? Because, obviously there's a lot of digitizing and electrical gear when you're playing metal. What were you guys trying to accomplish with an acoustic, or was it just an experiment, like a project, just to see if you could do it?
For me, it was more of an experiment. It was when we were both playing guitar, you know what I mean? And we loved, like, Alice in Chains and
Jar of Flies, man.
Opeth, like the clean aspect of Opeth, and we were really like, man, you know what? We should just try to do like a clean album, or like maybe not so much acoustic, but like clean,
Right,
with
yeah.
soft drums,
No distorted guitars.
yeah.
Right, pull back the gain and all that.
and
No drop C.
yeah, yeah, we tried it, and it kind of.
Was it good, but it didn't speak to you, or was it not
I
good?
feel like it was.
That's kind of a shitty question.
No, it's not. It's a great question.
We played bad stuff.
For me personally, I feel like it was like, hey, Tony, let's do an acoustic only, so we limited ourselves.
Sure.
And that's what I found out over the 15 plus years playing together, is what Judicator brings us is nobody has a box to fit in. They don't have to play a certain way. So like the bands that we've been, let's be straight up thrash, let's be death metal, let's be this, let's be that. And like, we love all that kind of music, and we love playing it, but like in Judicator we truly get to everything that we want to do.
Yeah, if we're playing something conventional, which we do a lot, we have a lot of like straight up normal power metal songs. Our last album is I would say it's very conventional from a power metal standpoint, whereas our third album is like, it's been weird because we get reviews and it's like if they're listening to our third album, they're like, this is too different for power metal. And then if they listen to our fourth album, they're like, this is too similar for power metal.
Yeah, it's funny there are a few bands that I've been huge fans of throughout their entire arcs, and they do that. They experiment. They try different things, and again, they don't care. They want you to like it, but if you don't like it, they're still gonna make it. Yep. They're still gonna play it at the concerts, and I've found that that's what happens with fans, is that it's like, well, it's like you talk to somebody and be like, oh, yeah, do you like Metallica? It's like, I like their old stuff. Do you like Rush? I like their old stuff.
Yeah.
And then it depends on where they came into it, because Rush was around for 40 years. So like, I like their old stuff, and then you find out their old stuff is like Power Windows, which is like right in the middle, like in the 80s. Well, that's when you were a teenager, dude. That is not their old stuff.
Right.
So yeah, that's so it seems very ballsy and very true to what I have seen is a successful blueprint.
Yeah, we just, if we're going to play something that's conventional, we want it to be because we want to be doing that. If we're going to use what everybody calls the Iron Maiden chord progression, we want it to be because that's what we felt in that song. But if we're going to throw blast beats and death metal riffs in, which might happen on our next album, stay tuned for a year to find out.
Okay.
It's going to be because that's what we feel right there. Like, even the other day we were working on one of the new songs, and Jordan's just like, we've never used a blast beat in a Judicator song, have we? I'm like, no. And he's like, can we? And I'm like, why not? Absolutely. Use a blast beat. And then it turned out to be really cool.
Yeah.
So that'll be something.
Kind of like Elon Musk. Can I make a flamethrower? Yes, I can.
Why not? So it's just always like never holding back an idea because it doesn't fit our genre. And if it is our genre, if it's totally typical, fine, as long as it's a good song. But we decided quite a few years ago to make that rule. Like, if we ever find ourselves saying like, no, I can't write that song because it's not what's expected of us, it's not what fits this genre, not only should we change our minds, but that's the reason to put it in the song, because it's not the right idea, or quote unquote the right idea. That's why we should put it in.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about the way that you approach writing and the way that you approach music, and we also talked about being a multi-state band. So when do you actually play together? Do you set time aside and go on tours, or is it like weekend gigs, or how's that work?
When it comes to making an album, everybody plays by themselves except for me and Jordan. We do that together. When it comes to preparing for a tour, so like we have a couple festivals we're playing this year. We're playing in Canada 3 weeks from today, our first international show. I'm totally not nervous at all.
No, not at all. Canadians are vicious.
Yes, yes, we're going to get torn apart. But
I just wanted to say again that Famous Sam's has the sexiest waitresses.
So we don't have our singer here, so he does not practice with us.
Okay.
But for me and how we run the band is practice and rehearsal are two different things. Practice is what you do at home. Rehearsal is your sound check.
Gotcha.
So you should be practiced before you come. When I go, and Jordan practices with me because he doesn't have a space to play his drums at home. So
What the fuck is up with that?
He has two kids. You can't put the headphones on a kid.
No, it was completely a joke. Coming from two guys who do their podcast in a bar. Because we have no fucking space.
And I had an electric kit to save space.
Oh, trust me, I don't even want to talk about not having
didn't like
space.
it.
No,
Like, my wife
not
right
the
now
same.
is like on the verge of leaving me because we're living in an apartment. So,
yeah, but we just make sure that we're, John, I don't have to worry about John because I know that he practices on his own time. He doesn't need to rehearse with us. We might do one rehearsal before we hit the road.
Do you think he's singing while he's reading all these books?
I know he is
just-
because that's just the level he operates on. He will literally like sit down and just like make melodies to songs, but he doesn't have words, so he just sings the most random crap. And I've looked at his files where he puts his like placeholders for the melodies before he writes lyrics, and it's stuff like poop and pee are fine by me. But
to hold the rhythm, the syntax for the relative.
and it gets really
lyrics.
strange. Like he'll just start writing about like Burger King and how his asshole got blown out by it.
He is the most interesting character I've ever met.
He's
I
very-
love him, but
That's awesome.
Yeah, I wish he was
we
here.
might have
'cause
to
he's-
Skype with this guy.
Yeah.
You should. I recommend it. He's got his own, musical career as well. He does a lot of stuff outside the band.
And what's his name?
John Yelland.
Yellen?
Yelland.
Yelland.
And.
Yellen.
Oh, and he's a vocalist. It's Kismet. Oh, that's so great. Now, was he on the Last Emperor? Is that your last release, or has there been one since?
So that was our last album. We released it about a year ago.
Okay.
And that's the last thing we've done.
And I'm fully enjoying it, back and forth
I
to work
appreciate that.
lately.
Nice.
You guys, it's like The Last Emperor and Joe Rogan.
Very cool. We did that. That was our fourth album. John has been the singer since the start. The band actually started as a bedroom project between me and him. So we met at a Blind Guardian concert in 2010, and our first two albums is just me and him. And we pull in some guest musicians, but it's us and a drum machine. and that's actually how the band got started.
Jordan,
Please speak out,
Jordan is having a hard time.
And he uses a drum machine.
To be fair, I was not living in Tucson at the time. I was in college at the time. I was up in Flagstaff, and we didn't want to be a band. We didn't even think anyone was going to listen to it. We just did it because we were bored, and we thought it would be fun. So I was like, "Hey, dude, I wrote a power metal album. You want to sing some vocals over it?" Sure. 3 weeks later, there was our debut album, and it's considerably rough because it's a zero budget album. We spent no money on it, and yet we've sold quite a few copies of it, even so, because I think that our passion for the music.
No money on it.
Yep.
Do you mean like in production, like
Yep.
cleaning everything up?
We just had a friend mix and master it for us real quick,
Holy shit.
and it has a really shitty sounding drum machine on it.
Yeah, well, so that's the thing. It's like the jealousy factor is kicking in now because although we're gaining popularity, we're on Patreon. We're on Patreon. You can subscribe. Patreon.com/Hard
Thoughts.
But we actually, the initial investment was a little painful, and to hear that you had this kind of success for no money. I hate you right now.
Well, so let me contextualize that a bit before you.
We had some investors, some backers.
Before you let off on the ire too much. When we decided to turn the band into a real band, that's when the investment started happening. Because with our third album, we realized we did a lot better on our second album. We tried a lot harder because we were like, oh, maybe we should turn this into like a regular recording project since people listened to our first album. And then more people listened to our second album and we sold several hundred CDs. And we're like, okay, yeah, no, we should actually do this for real now. That's when I pulled in Jordan. I was like, Jordan, I accidentally started a band. You want to join?
Yeah, exactly.
It was more like, hey, so I scheduled a festival in Florida and I need you to play. And I said, oh, okay. And then 2 weeks later, after not playing the drums for years, I had a stroke.
Oh,
And
shit.
then the show, laugh about it. That's funny.
Laugh about the guy's stroke.
And then the show was about a month away from my stroke.
While you were recording our third album.
Yeah. So it was.
That's how metal it was.
It was brutal, but we got through it, and we had an amazing producer that made me sound better than I was.
That's a producer's job.
And we did a Kickstarter for that album, and because there was a lot of people that were interested in our music, and they were telling us like, dude, you guys, like, what would it take to make this like a professional produced worldwide distributed album? And we're like, well, a few $1,000s, and turns out like people wanted to support it, and they did, and we were able to get that initial investment and pay it back. And that's how our third album came to be, and then that just exponential.
You got to bail out and paid it back?
Yes, I
Thanks,
know.
Obama.
It was during the Obama administration, incidentally. But
Corporations take note.
Yeah, it opened all kinds of opportunities for us, and we got with Dive Bomb Records at the time, who I'd worked with in another band that I was in called Project Roan Wolf. And that's run by Matthew, who is the singer for Kill Whitney Dead, if you guys have ever heard of them. He runs a label called Dive Bomb. Great label. They re-release all these lost classics from the 80s. They do great things for the community. And he actually re-released our third album and got it worldwide distribution and expanded our listenership exponentially. And we spent the next 2 years playing around the United States, not very much, just a dozen or so shows, just going to places where we knew there was interest in power metal, and knocked that out, and it really just changed the game for us and made us able to do our fourth album of our own accord, which we did independent, very intentionally. So as much as I love Matthew, I love Dive Bomb, I told him it doesn't really make sense for us to go with you right now because one, we're investing our own money that we've made from touring, and two, I want to be a free agent for a reason. And that reason was, and Jordan and I planned this very intentionally going into our fourth album cycle, we're like, the only way you get to another level, you expand your listenership, is if you run your business as best as you can, you make it look very risk-free, you expand your brand as much as you can, you really solidify it. So what we did is we were really intentional about revamping our artwork, revamping our logo, being intentional about like our photo shoots and like how we dressed, making a music video, making the album a little bit more attention grabbing, so it's a little more straightforward, not as a dishonest thing, but just to be more digestible. Right. To make it more
appeal out there.
Right. We wanted to do like, let's do a straightforward power metal album, and then we brought in Hansi Kirsch from Blind Guardian, so that they would be supporting us, and man, that drive got us tons of buy-in from the power metal community. And the reason we did that is because we're like, if we can make ourselves look as operable as possible with as low risk, like somebody may want to reach out to us and help us. And incidentally, they did.
Yeah, I was about to say, without going too much into it, tell us what's next for Judicator.
So right now we're working on our 5th album, which is going to be called Let There Be Nothing. It is a concept album about Emperor Justinian and his general Belisarius in the Byzantine Empire.
Oh, classic.
Oh yeah. It's actually it's quite a lusty tale. It's going to be. It's all about how Belisarius' wife was cheating on him with his I want to say his godson, stepson, something like that.
Damn, Game of Thrones type shit.
Yeah, all while like fighting these crazy battles and this crazy war. And we're working on that album right now, and we got tapped by one of my favorite record labels, whose name I cannot say at the moment, but we did sign a 3-album deal. Cool. So our next 3 albums will be released through this record label, and that announcement will probably come out towards the end of the year, because we have to actually make the album first and prove that we can actually work for it.
We'll have to come back and we'll talk about it then. That's
Absolutely.
awesome.
How long would you say up till now, because it sounds like you're going to be getting a little bit busier. What's the average tour length for you guys, or do you just, like you said, do you pinpoint, or do you guys load up a van and live like hobbits for a while? Or?
So we haven't done any playing in the last 2 years because our last album was logistically complicated.
Gotcha.
And we just didn't really have the ability to make that happen with what was going on in the band, and we were concentrating very much on making the album work.
Gotcha.
So in the past, it's usually a week or two at a time, one region of the United States. With what we've got going on, we do want to make an effort to play out more. We're being strategic this year.
Okay.
In that we're only really playing festivals this year. So we're on 2 right now. We're playing Hyperspace Metal Festival in Canada, in Vancouver, Canada.
And that's in 3 weeks?
That is in 3 weeks.
Book your tickets now.
Yes. But it's also kind of worked to our advantage because we don't play live a lot, but there's a pretty decent demand for it. So, when people reach out to us, they're like, dude, like, we want you guys. Like, it's not just, it's kind of a special occasion for you guys to play. So we'd really like to make this happen for you. And we're going to play Mad with Power Fest in Madison, Wisconsin this fall.
Nice.
With amazing bands from the U.S. power metal scene. We're playing with Helium Prime, Nova Rain, Fiacra, Lords of the Trident, and Theocracy. I think I'm missing one.
Madison, Wisconsin in the fall, where you're long underwear.
No, I'm, I might have missed a band there, but, us. We're playing too. We're on that bill.
That's kind of the important thing.
But it's going to be a really cool experience, and then in the next couple of years to come, supporting our 5th album, knowing what support we have, we'll probably look to be a little more strategic about 1 or 2, maybe 3-week tours and festivals in particular. There's a couple we've got our eye on.
This conversation has led me to, Tony, I just want to pick your brain a little bit. How much of a compartmentalizer are you? Because I know you in a different context, and we're not going to talk about that, but the context I know you, I'm impressed by. And I'm like, okay, this person knows what he's doing in this realm, and that realm is completely different from this. Mm-hmm. And yet, you have your shit together there, and you have your shit together here, and you have a family. So, how does your brain work?
First of all, thank you. I appreciate that positive feedback. I would say I'm a holistic person. I don't compartmentalize. So same skills I use at work I apply in the band, I apply in my personal life, I apply in my personal relationships. Because to me, it's all the same shit, you know. So if I learn something valuable at work, like ooh, that could help us in the music world. And Jordan's actually the same way. He utilizes like what he learns for his personal craft versus his family versus work, because it's all related. Like if something is useful in the business world, we're in the music business, so it's useful. It's useful here, like understanding. At the end of the day, everything is project management.
Yep.
It's all talking to people, it's all logistics, it's all deadlines, it's all making sure that people are where they need to be when they need to be there, the money is where it needs to be when it needs to be there. So being very intentional about that and thinking long term. Like one mistake we made when we were kids, and you know, we're kids, we don't know, is we would take any opportunity that came to us. It's like, dude,
We play every other weekend.
oh yeah.
To the same crowd.
Battle of the Bands.
We played the same venue 2 days in a row once. Like why? What was the point of that?
Right. Yeah.
So
I see that. I have a friend, and he's not the type of guy that would get angry about this, because we talked earlier about, you know, you guys are the first band we've had on, and we have a bunch of friends who are musicians. So, like, you know, the joke was there'd be outrage, but the truth is the truth is there wouldn't, because the kind of people they are. But I do have a friend who is an amazing guitarist. He writes music, and he's kind of stuck in a rut because, you know, and I don't want to cause a problem here, but he ends up playing with cover bands a lot because he likes to play. So he'll play every weekend, but he wants to write music, and he runs into these walls of people who are like, no, I'm kind of doing this as a hobby. I, you know, really want to write music. So it's kind of difficult to bring somebody like that on the show, as opposed to your approach to it, where it's like, hey, no.
Well, and there's focus. You know, they're very driven. They're very focused, and you know, like you were saying, 5-year plans, and you know, there's a lot of forethought that go into. It seems like every aspect of what you guys are currently doing. So I'm going to ask both you guys the same question. What, Jordan?
Yes, sir.
Don't call me sir. I work for a living.
Spent 0 days in the military, by the way. Although,
0 days enlisted. Yes, trust me. I know how to run for indeterminate amount of distance and time. So, what is your favorite process of all of this? Do you like writing better? Do you like performing live? Do you like working on websites? What to you, when you wake up, what sparks joy?
the groupies?
For Jordan. You're right. That's for everybody. So what do you like doing most part of this project?
Part of this project I like most, that's really hard, because there's not much about the process that you really enjoy. And
yeah, that's a great, honest answer, man. That is so great.
It's hard to say, and I want to be true to myself.
So it is work.
So, technically, yes. See, I was never a fan of power metal.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
I was always a fan of technical death metal, and he got me into progressive rock and just weird, like, psychedelic shit. And
yeah, so I am a prog rocker too, so I get it.
so when he introduced me to this project, I'm like, I never listened to the first 2 albums. I didn't like them on Facebook. I was like, oh, Tony. And, you know, there was a jealousy factor because I sold my kit. He went off to college, had these 2 albums, playing music, and I have a kid and a fiance, and I'm like, shit, man, he's doing it.
Right.
I fell into the real world shit, you know.
Right.
And a part of it that I love now is, I mean, he saved my life in the musical factor, because when he gave me the opportunity to play in that festival, like, hey man, I bought a drum set.
Clicked for you.
And, you know, and it was almost like, I'm not religious, but it's something telling you, you know, this is important. Right. You got to do it.
Yeah.
So I love being with my friend and my friends. You know, Michael, great guy. John, great guy. I love interacting with him. I love being creative. My most important thing about me is I have to be creative. And I hate the recording process. Mm-hmm. I like the jamming process. I hate the touring and playing live because I'm a drummer. I have to lug in and set up all my shit.
It's a lot of work.
With, you know what I mean?
And then you have to play.
Yeah.
But, you know, in 10 years when you guys are the biggest band in your genre, somebody else is going to be doing that.
Yeah.
That's right.
Hopefully. But,
And you remember the little people.
It's just...
I mean, and I literally mean little.
But yeah, when I look back and I have an album to listen to and I have the memories and I have the videos of the tours and playing live and I can show my kids and my kids are like rocking out and singing King of Rome, like, and they're able to be at my show and watch me. I mean, they're 4 and 7 now. To have those little kids be influenced by their dad and their dad's friends and stuff, that's my favorite thing.
The final product itself, and we can attest to that. He can probably attest to it a little bit more because he had some experience in music, but with the podcast, we're on like episode 23, and it boggles my mind. And then when people come up to me, sometimes they're strangers, like, hey, you're that podcast guy, and I'm like, holy shit,
like, what?
Something that I decided to do.
Are you about to murder me? What's going on?
What's the frequency, Kenneth? No, don't say that. But no, I can completely relate to the fact that you put in the work, and I didn't really want to get up this morning and come in here.
No.
It's my day off. Yeah. I kind of had a rough week.
But it's the process.
Both of these guys know my job is fucking cake. But when you go through the process, and then at the end of it, you have this thing.
Yep.
You have this thing that it's like, I forget what television production company it is, but at the end of it, it's like, I made this.
Yep.
And it's like, you made that. That's just an amazing feeling.
It's the most rewarding part about anything is when you get up and you feel like shit, you don't want to do it, and then you do it, and you take pride in doing something that you don't want to do. And at the end of the day, like, that's almost the best feeling.
Yeah, and I still get that at work. I don't get that at work as much as I used to, because I kind of went into more of a management type of part of my work. But I started like every other paramedic started, riding in the back of a truck, putting your finger inside of somebody's artery. And then of course it was all the.
Thank God you said artery.
I didn't know where that was going.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know what he does for a living.
No. But yeah, it's amazing that no matter what it is you do, that if you find joy in it at the end, trudging through the things you have to trudge through is worth it.
Are we allowed to sample this song in our recording?
I know,
it's coming through.
Yeah, YouTube.
But I know. Oh well. We're not making. We're not going to drop exactly who it was playing now. But Tony. Same question. You can't give the same goddamn answer.
I will.
Thanks for letting me go first.
I will say I laughed when Jordan said nothing about the process, because I agree, and we talk about that a lot. Like, and my answer is different, but just to hit on that, like, yeah, absolutely. Like, a lot of the work part of it, like, just fucking sucks.
So you just wake up, you're like, yeah, let's go get our CDLs.
This is. I've had my CDL.
It's amazing.
Who's doing the research now, Adrian?
But it's funny because recording sucks. It's hard.
It is an arduous process.
Yeah, and touring is physically tough on me. Like, I kind of stayed away from it the last 2 years, honestly, because
it's greasy work.
Yeah, it's tough, and like, you get off of work for 2 or 3 weeks just to work harder than you're working at work,
and get paid less. Exactly. Lose money.
Yeah. Right. But like he said, it is worth it in the end, and obviously that applies to me as well. Like, that final product. Like, I have a vinyl record of my album, and I'm a vinyl collector.
Sweet.
And it's just amazing. What's that?
What color is it?
Oh, they're just black. 180 gram black. Nothing fancy, but like, just to have that, and like, to be able to show someone, or if I have kids one day, just to be able to, like, yeah, I did this. This is awesome. But for me, like, more than that, and he kind of hit on it as well, but being able to work with so many people and so many talents, like even you guys, like getting to be a part of your podcast. No, like experiencing all that creativity, like that's what keeps me going. Because like if you put me in a vacuum and you put me in a room and you tell me make an album, I will make something exceedingly mediocre. It will be very average. It will not be produced particularly well, and it will be forgettable. But to be able to put my creativity into the mix, and it's weird because like I'm the kind of person, like a lot of people look at what we're doing and they'll pinpoint it on me and they're like, dude, you did so awesome, like you're driving all this, yada yada yada, whatever it is, like that's Tony's album. Like no, it's really not. I mean, I appreciate that, and maybe it's my brainchild, but that brainchild doesn't come out of my brain without the creativity of so many other people. Like,
but you've coordinated a bunch of different creative venues.
Absolutely, and I love like pulling that talent in and organizing it. Like I get to take Jordan's drumming and Michael's bass playing and John's vocals and like our producer Carlos
Like you already
Alvarez.
don't do that for a living.
Maybe, but like, and then like the cover artist, I get to pull him in, and then like to even see like the people writing reviews of it. Like I used to be a literature teacher and a writing teacher. So like seeing them like write about our album, I'm like, wow, I really appreciate like the syntax of how they're writing about it, or interviews, or seeing even the distribution process, the management process, like getting to be a part of everyone's creative spark. Like I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of people, and to see them like self-actualized and participating and excited and being able to do what they enjoy doing because I'm doing what I'm enjoying doing, that is a really cool just like synergy of creativity between people for me, that I wouldn't trade for anything. And honestly, that's what keeps me going. Like anytime I think about like, oh man, this is fucking hard and I want to quit and I'm frustrated and I'm no good, which is, by the way, like every day I go.
Oh yeah, no, if you're an artist, that's while you're brushing your teeth. You're like, damn it.
No, like literally, like I'll be brushing my teeth and I'm like, your riffs are shit, dude.
What the hell am I doing with my life?
Like go back to school.
Why is it always in the mirror? You're looking at the mirror.
That's what it
You're a
is.
fucking asshole.
You're looking
No, and then to be able to have worked with people that I grew up listening to, like the fact that like I did a song with Hansi Kirsch, or I've worked with the guitar player from Theocracy, or that we played shows with like Celador, or things like that. Like just to know that now I'm part of what I used to admire. Like anytime I think about quitting, I'm like, how many people, and I don't mean fans, I mean, you love the fans, they support your band, they keep you going.
Personal relationships.
Like, how many people would be disappointed in me if I quit? How many people? Yes, exactly. They're the accountability partner in it. How many people would be affected and couldn't do what they do if I quit? That's what keeps me going.
Well, we're glad you guys are doing what you're doing. We wish you nothing but success on the upcoming record deal and tours and hotel rooms that you're not going to trash. It doesn't sound like this. You got kids and you got
You kind of have a straight edge vibe, guys.
Yeah.
So tell our audience of 7 people, tell our audience where they can find you on social media or wherever.
So if you go to judicatormetal.bandcamp.com, all our albums are there. Our first 2 are Name Your Price. They're free. They may not be as good, but you can get them for free.
Hey, and that's the magic number. And before we sign off here, I want to give a shout out. Who is your album art guy or girl or whomever?
We've used a couple of different. Our first and our third album is by Austin Bentley. He was actually our guitar player for a while. Super talented dude, amazing artist. AustinBentley.net, I think it is.
Okay.
And then Brilliant Engine is the company that did our 4th album. Bo Bradshaw is the guy who runs it, and Mark Wisnat, I think I said that right, is the actual painter who did the album art.
You guys, all 700 of our listeners, check them out. It's very, very appealing to look at, just and not just to listen to, but these guys have been putting in all of the effort that they can muster in not just their free time but their working time. I'm sure you guys are thinking about this stuff while you're busy earning tax money. So
not if my boss asks.
I absolutely want to say that this has been one of my favorite podcasts to do, and thank you very much for coming on, and we have to have you back once you solidify that record deal. And for those of you who are enjoying it as equally as much as I am, Remember that you can find us at School of Hard Thoughts on every social platform, and you can also support us on Patreon. It's patreon.com/School
of Hard Thoughts.
And I'm going to end my part of this, as I always do. I love you, Tracy.
And I also think Tracy is pretty great. But again, episode 23 in the can. We love you, all of you guys. And Judicator, thank you guys again so much for coming up. We're gonna post a bunch of your stuff on our social media platforms. Be sure to give them a listen to. And if you're in Vancouver, which I know a couple of our fans are, check them out. All right.